Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage. Hi, friends. Welcome to our recording of Season 5, Episode 10 of The Handmaid's Tale. This is so exciting. The Season 5 finale. I truly cannot believe it. It's also super sad. After recording multiple episodes every week for the past year, it's crazy to have run out of episodes to analyze. But we still have lots of exciting interviews in the editing room and in the works. If you haven't yet, check out our interviews with Eva Vives, director of 505 and 506, Nicola Daly, cinematographer, lead DP, and an amazing combination interview with the Putnams, aka Ever Carradine and Stephen Kunkin. That one came out last Friday. Definitely don't miss it. They are incredible. And we have an interview with costume designer Leslie Kavanaugh coming out in 2 days. And then more in the editing room, like the amazing Genevieve Angelson, who plays Mrs. Alanis Wheeler. In addition, we will be doing special topical episodes. We're thinking about an awards episode for this season, giving out MVPs and favorite characters and such. And also a men taking over the podcast episode. Find out how the men in our lives feel about season 5. But back to the actual season finale. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Julia.
Hi, I'm Helen.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi, I'm Raquel.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. So the episode opens with some amazing cinematography as we travel down June Street in a delivery van. And then from behind her into her former garden, now more of a graveyard, the delivery truck is pulling up to the house. It's called Red, by the way, likely not a coincidence in The Handmaid's Tale. But when June goes to pick up the box, I gotta admit, I thought it was going to be a bomb. The extended shot in the camera, then on her feet, I don't know, it felt very foreboding to me. Did anybody else think that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was very nervous.
Yeah. Felt like something was going to happen.
Yeah, the music was also so creepy.
And she was wearing red as well.
Yeah.
That's always a sign.
Which she hasn't been doing, right?
Yeah.
No.
But turns out it's just a bulletproof vest. She is learning after the shooting at the memorial. She's got to keep herself safe. She's trying it on in the mirror when Luke comes in and checks it out, tightens it up, says he hates this world. He tells her he loves her, and she manages to say it back, but it sounds anything but true. And it looks like he knows that too, just sad. After he leaves, June goes to sit in the window, light shining down, looking very much like she did at the Waterfords. This show's amazing with so many parallels like this. What were your thoughts on those scenes?
My thought was exactly like what you just said, was when she said, I love you back to him. It was definitely like she was just saying it to say it. And he knew that. Like I could feel that it was empty. It hit him like it was just an empty, I love you to him. And he got it.
It felt hard for her to say it even, like she's trying to like get it out.
Yeah. Like she's just going through the motions of what is kind of expected of her to say. She's married, she's just going through the motions. It's the reply, and he can feel that.
I mean, it's just also, I don't know, a few days after she told I love you to Nick again, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Yeah.
I think it was also like a little bit of repetition of what Nick had said. I had to think of 509 immediately because Nick said the world is a mess, and Luke says, I hate the world, but I love you. So it's almost the same scene, but with a different man. I felt a little bit.
Very different emotion.
Yeah.
Her sitting in the window reminded me of when she's sitting in the window. I think it's in episode 1 when she's saying her name and she says, I intend to survive.
Yeah.
I think she's sitting pretty much the same way in that scene, and the light is coming in the same way. So it reminded me of that scene too.
I was wondering when she said I'm supposed to do a prayer at the next memorial, what do you guys think are the logistics of her being asked to do that? Like, do you think that the people that died in the raid know her connection to it? And do you know what I'm saying? Like, they know that she was partly responsible, or that her daughters, right, exactly. Like, I'm just wondering if it's a hostile environment potentially that she's walking into. I mean, it is obviously because somebody could shoot her, but like even for the families that she's praying for.
Yeah, I'd say it's weird. She's a weird choice for that. except for in her role as like the rebel for anti-Gilead. So like
I see it like that.
Yeah. So not specific to the mission.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know that they were going to save her daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, she's this big ass symbol who got to manage all those kids out, and this raid was supposed to get kids out, and it failed, and so she has a big part in giving hope to probably the people who lost someone in the raid, and also the ones who are still hoping for their kids to come back.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I like that.
They probably don't know what the mission was, and they probably didn't actually say, "Oh, it's just for Hannah." They probably thought it was going to be other children being rescued as well, which is probably what they intended to do.
Mark said 30 kids.
Right.
Don't know if they would have been told, because I think you guys were discussing episode 8 that it's not normal for people that are involved personally to actually know that they're going to try to rescue their loved ones. Because if it doesn't happen, then obviously it's very upsetting.
And there was only Luke and June and the airport. So either only them knew, or
probably because
I
I don't think he wanted to tell them either. June was like, well, June, you don't get to tell me now that don't have clearance.
I was wondering about the significance of that flower bed she had, and is now looking like a grave. So I was kind of take it as a symbol for like the flowers were her hopes and dreams to get Hannah back, and now everything is like crushed again and there's no hope left, kind of.
I think someone said in the last episode too that it was also maybe about a metaphor for her like trying to make life in Canada, like domestic life, and she can't do that, and that's realized at this point. So I like that.
And we see at the beginning of the season she starts with the seedlings. It seems at home, and in spring she I don't know how you said that, she plants them and then she tends to them, and after the phone call she rips it all away. So it's like all the hope that she had that Canada would bring her is gone. If Hannah's not there, it's all a grave again.
Or nothing, right?
And nothing,
Which reminds me of what Scarlett just said about her sitting in the window in episode 1. You know, this is a different life, but she's just kind of like in the same place. She's still not safe. She's still navigating all of these dangers around her. So,
and Hannah's still not there with her.
I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but the shots of the street, we got like 2 shots of the street, one's coming further down the episode. It made me think of Gilead, the way that Gilead looked when they used to go out walking.
The handmaids walking.
Yeah, Gilead used to be like a very quote unquote peaceful place if everybody did what they were supposed to do, but there was this constant fear that the eyes were going to come for you. And in the beginning of this episode, that's how it constantly felt. Like everything seemed calm, but you felt that something was coming. So it gave me that impression.
Yeah, I felt that too.
The next scene is looking down on Gilead, all the commanders walking around. Somebody said they look like ants, and that's very true.
Menacing bees, I said.
Hive. Yeah, it looks. I also had like the feeling it looks like a hive, and everybody's just like bustling around and doing their thing, making the machinery work.
Yeah. Then we join Nick, who wants to have a word with an exasperated Lawrence. Doesn't seem to want to give him the time. Nick's heard about the shooting and that June was there, and he's very upset. He tells Lawrence she's not a target. And when Lawrence replies she could be, after everything she's pulled, most recently trying to kidnap our children, Nick repeats she's not a target. Lawrence formally agrees that expats are not targets for execution officially. That is their current policy as far as he knows. When Lawrence tells Nick she made the choices that have gotten her here, Nick reminds him that she's just fighting for her daughter, and Lawrence takes his leave saying people get bloody in fights. And the scene ends with Nick leaning on the railing looking very worried.
I mean, I feel like you could tell Nick's wheels were turning. He could sense a shift, and Lawrence too was reminding himself that, oh yeah, Nick is an eye. I can't get much past him. Like, oh yeah, the eyes. He said he's kind of like reminding himself that the eyes are everywhere, and like, that's right, I can't really get stuff past you. So you could kind of see how there was like somewhat of a little power play there, like with Lawrence, and how Nick was like, he could feel the shift, that there was some sort of shift, and his wheels were turning on, what to do next with that.
What I found very surprising, first of all, he's somewhere else and not calling a meeting at home. So he's in like a commander hub, whatever that is. And he's wearing his regular commander suit. He's not in his woolen suit with his scarves and ascots, whatever. He's dressed like every other commander, like exactly like Nick is dressed. So that was very surprising for me, and his behavior as well while talking to Nick. Yeah, he's very Gilead.
Yeah,
very.
I thought kind of Nick was kind of giving him not an ultimatum, but he said it twice. Like, she's not a target. Like, no matter what you're doing, like, this is not going to come into play. And when he says to him, you know, she's had 1,000 choices or 100 choices, I don't remember the exact words. Technically, I mean, it's not the choice that she wants, but she's had choices. You know, she could go to New Bethlehem, which we know it's a complete disaster. But in season 4, he also told her, trade me 10 kids, trade me 5 kids. So I just keep reminding myself of, you know, Lawrence. This is the only thing that Lawrence can give her, but he can't give her Hannah. It's impossible, like Nick said on 409. Like, this is the only choice that she would have, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice. It's still a choice.
Yeah. What you said about Nick's, like, she's not a target, double saying that twice, ultimatum. I just wrote down just like Nick's thoughts. I don't give a fuck how or why. I'm the self-appointed boss of the situation.
And he has this June, I will fuck with you as there while talking to Lawrence. So he is very serious about the subject.
I actually also thought it was fairly risky, stupid of him to be saying this in front of the other command. Like, there are a lot of people around, and he's really wearing his heart on his sleeve. I mean, obviously it gets a lot worse, so it doesn't matter. But I was surprised by this.
It just kind of pales after you get to the end of the episode.
Definitely.
You kind of forget.
Yeah, exactly.
That escalated quickly. Yeah.
Also, what Megan was saying about Lauren saying, the eyes do you see or whatever. It seemed like, I mean, like you were saying, Megan, it's weird that he would have expected Nick not to know this happened. And then also, like, did you guys think Lawrence seemed like he'd been caught, kind of the way he said that? Like, it was almost like, oh shit, he did find out about it.
Like, he was reminding himself, oh shit, I can't get it past him. He does have eyes everywhere. Like, they forget because they're so close. Like, damn it. He knows everything I'm doing because he's everywhere.
He's the one that he told him in season 4, right? That the eyes. Oh, he said the eyes don't see everything, right?
Yeah, they can't see everything.
Yeah. Episode 5, Chicago.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of related.
Do you think he was talking about the actual eyes of Gilead? Because it kind of felt like he might have been getting that information from somewhere else, like Tuello.
I thought he meant the institution of the eyes. Yeah.
I think he just meant Nick. Like, he knows Nick's going to be honed in on this, and he's not going to get.
But where's he getting that information from? Because obviously, they probably, if there's been any sort of like, you know, talks about getting to June, the eyes wouldn't know that either, because there will be like the council.
I don't think he means the eyes like the eyes.
I don't think that.
Yeah, I think he just means like
Nick is getting
information from everywhere. Yeah,
from everywhere.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what he learned in what Kate just mentioned in that episode in season 4, because he was going through the real eyes channels to find June, and he didn't even know that she was in Chicago at that time. And then when Lawrence mentions, okay, it's the eyes can't see anything, he resorted to contacting the Martha network, and that's where he got his information. So I'm pretty sure like Nick is using all the channels he has now.
Definitely,
he learned that from Lawrence, that you know, like just using the eyes as the eyes institution is not enough. You need to use all the sources you can get.
It's also proof that he's not like giving up on June. Like he said in like 5 on Hour episode 9, that, you know, he's not just moving on. He still has his eyes everywhere, trying to make sure that he's protecting her.
I don't think he's ever moving on from protecting her. He's just trying to let her go and have her life. And he knows, unfortunately, he has to try to make his life, but he's never going to stop that part, protecting her.
When Lauren said that is our current policy, as far as I know, did you guys think that, like, the question seemed really loaded to me, and I kind of wondered if he was trying to, like, I don't know, speak in code a little bit and like say it's not policy, but that doesn't mean it's not happening off the books. Like, Mackenzie's probably up to something, but it's not like we're not like voting on it and it's not an official thing happening.
Yeah, that's exactly how I've translated that sentence. Yeah.
It also felt like a threat to June as well. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know how much Lawrence thinks Nick is in contact with June, but it kind of felt like if you can try to convince her to stop being stupid, you know, maybe she doesn't get targeted. I don't know. It kind of felt like, you know, this could change at any point. Maybe you need to get some sense into her. Yeah.
Also, when Lauren says she had a choice, she had 1,000 choices, the thing we just talked about, and then Nick kind of like shakes his head, looks so disgusted about that, and then he's like, she's fighting for her daughter, the first thing that I thought was like, Nick is always defending June for her actions, attempting to get Hannah. Like, he's just like supportive of her, constantly looking for Hannah. He's not trying to stop her from doing it. Even within Gilead, like he's being like supportive of her like efforts to get Hannah. I just think that's interesting that he never tries to say like, don't do that, or she shouldn't be, I don't know.
He understands.
Yeah.
That she, she's going to do crazy things about it, but he kind of stop it. It's not gonna not let her do it.
Well, and he also understands he knows what it's like to need your child to be safe. I mean, he got his child out of Gilead, and he knows, what she's doing. She needs to be close to her daughter at least, or they just need to keep her safe. So he knows that feeling.
He also said it in 409, I knew once you got to Canada, you were going to stop looking. So he knows she's going to keep fighting for Hannah no matter.
Yeah, I mean, he came to that meeting like prepared because he knew that in 409.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that him marrying Rose is not a nice coincidence that her family is friends with Mackenzie's.
No, can't be.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't hear anything.
It's just the problem is that Hannah is not there. She's like halfway across the country. If she were there, I don't know.
Yeah.
If he would have done a bit more.
I'm interested to find out if we hear more about that. It does not, like you said, it doesn't seem like a coincidence he married Mackenzie's friend. So
it's clearly something that, the writers wanted us to think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if what happens in the end of the episode, blows that up, but I would have liked to know more. Then we're with Janine and the handmaids at the Red Center scrubbing the floor. I've never seen a floor so often scrubbed, but they adorably start singing It's a Hard Knock Life from Annie. And when they hear Aunt Lydia on the stairs, Janine calls out Code Brown. But Lydia's still Lydia 2.0 now. And after what might be my favorite Aunt Lydia smile on the stairs, it's super cute. She starts up and instead of yelling at them, tells them it's no sin to enjoy one's work. She merely suggests a hymn instead. Janine's smile after this interaction is cute too. Aunt Elizabeth then speaks to Lydia, telling her she has to find a new posting for Janine. The special treatment was slow to be noticed, but it is now being noticed by everyone.
I really liked how Janine at the beginning of the scene, she's like picking up on the negative morale of everybody. Like you just see her like looking around. She sees people looking bummed out, struggling physically and just really exhausted. And it was just nice. It was like a real June moment to me that she's looking after them. And I mean, it's in her own way, obviously, but just the way she did that was very, what is the word I'm looking for? The vibe.
Empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like discerning, or like she's noticing things really.
Mm-hmm.
The Code Brown.
Yeah. Who in the world thinks of anything else?
I thought it was interesting that I think the corrections are a complete 180. Like in any other season, she would have come in and just started beating the shit out of the handmaids for singing some, song. But you see how she looks, like Kate said, extremely happy, which is also very weird to see. It just kind of makes you forget just how evil Aunt Lydia was in the first seasons.
Did anyone reckon she was wearing more makeup? Because she looked really put together to me.
Oh, she did. Yeah, I noticed that.
Probably going along with her character change.
Mm-hmm. I was also, because we were talking about the Code Brown thing, I was also wondering because we see Janine getting the handmaids in check after this Code Brown. It's kind of a warning, right? Oh, come on, guys, keep up your facade. So I was wondering what she's talking behind the scenes with them about when they are alone, like just the handmaids, no aunts at all. Is she just also trying to teach them to behave, or is she like a little bit like June and
I think she's a lot more like June and Janine's season, like pre-Gilead Janine nowadays. I bet she's being real with them when she can. That's just my impression.
She also had the talk with Aunt Lydia. Which episode was that? 5 or 6? Where Aunt Lydia asked her to support her and talk to the girls and be her, like a in-between between the handmaids and report on their problems. So maybe she feels responsible in that way for the handmaids, and she has better contact with each and every one of them because she's allowed to, keep an eye on them. That's why I was a little bit surprised when Aunt Elizabeth said that people are slow to notice the charity. And I was like, how is this charity if you believe that their destination is to be a handmaid? So keeping them in the Red Center shouldn't be called charity. These are two aunts talking, with each other. Elizabeth calls it charity, as if she was saving her from something bad, when in Gilead being handmaid is like your duty and to God. And so she's actually keeping her from her,
right,
true
yes.
purpose.
Okay, I understand. Like, yeah, they believe
Right.
that's what they're meant to be. That's
Her
fulfilling
divine duty or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like everybody knows what's up. Everybody knows.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
opinion.
Deep down, they know how shitty it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes out, I guess.
Yeah. And Lydia takes care of it immediately. And the next scene at the Gilead dress shop. How cool is it to see a Gilead dress shop? We were lucky enough to interview Leslie Kavanaugh, the costume designer for the season. And that comes out on Friday. And she mentioned the dress shop, which we were excited for. It seems Naomi has decided to take Lawrence up on his generous offer of betrothal. And she's trying on a wedding dress with Aunt Lydia playing the role of maid of honor, it seems. But we quickly realize Aunt Lydia is doing something I can't believe either, suggesting Janine be Lawrence and Naomi's handmaid, which means Janine will be in the same house as her daughter. As far as Gilead goes, this proposition is pretty amazing for Janine, in my opinion. Lydia really is treating her so much better these days. Naomi is predictably horrified. The last time Janine was a handmaid in her house, she humiliated her on the bridge with her admissions of sexual hijinks with Warren, and also nearly killed the baby.
Don't forget the biting.
Oh yes, the biting. I love that she bit her. It is a lot for Naomi to forget, in my opinion, but after some light threatening from Lydia, she ends up agreeing to consider it, despite the fact that it will make her look like a fool. And Lydia says, on the contrary, you'll be an image of forgiveness and grace. A new Gilead needs new women at the helm, women like you. And the dress is the dress a really light teal, probably? Like Leslie said, Serena's funeral dress was a midnight teal. Pretty cool. And Naomi's sigh at the end. You can see how much she's struggling with all of this, just written all over her face. Like, great acting.
That cut from the previous scene to that's insane, like just on her face, it just makes me laugh every time. Her delivery is so great.
Yeah.
And the editing is like, it's like a comedy edit kind of where it cuts to her, and yeah.
So basically, Lydia knows what Lawrence wants to do with this new Bethlehem.
Yeah.
And that's why she's basically posting Janine there, so she can be quote unquote safe, if we can call it that. But I think it's interesting how she was not very happy with Lawrence. And that I think the last scene that we saw is that, I'll leave you to it scene. And then in this episode, they seem kind of like together. So I'm guessing maybe the change was that they took care of Commander Putnam and justice was served like Lydia wanted. Yeah. So now they have this kind of allegiance to each other, which I thought it was interesting.
Yes.
And Lawrence must have asked her to help with the proposal in 509. So they're connected because of that, probably, as well. So when Aunt Lydia said about the new Gilead needs new women who are strong and faithful, it felt to me like right on the nose. She's talking about New Bethlehem. And a little bit later, when we see Naomi in her curlers, she looks like a little bit like Princess Leia. And I had to think, is she the new princess of the new J-Lo universe?
She is.
Do you think Naomi knows about New Bethlehem?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
I think she knows about the idea and that probably that Lawrence is launching it again, but maybe not the extent of it.
Because it reminded me when Lydia says about looking merciful, it just reminds me what Nick says about them throwing Fred's funeral, that they will look merciful to the world. So I don't know how much Naomi knows about them trying to create this better vision of, or like optics of Gilead, and how on board she is with that. I suppose she would be, doesn't really have a choice as a woman, but
probably unofficially there are channels. I think the women know information.
And do you think she knows that's why Putnam got killed?
I think no, none of the women does know, or like at least Naomi doesn't know. They framed it in a way that it was because he raped Esther outside of the ceremony, and even before she was his handmaid and official property, quote unquote. So, and the other thing is because Lawrence offered Nick to move to New Bethlehem, I don't think that Lawrence will move there himself because he has bigger things to do in the council, I think, still.
He showed the other commanders in that walk Nick was also there, and they talk about Putnam's lack of moral fortitude. So I think they kind of implied what they were trying to do as well.
Do you think the commanders then got home? Because we've seen Fred discussing maybe political things with Serena in the past. Do you think that's something that the other commanders do?
I don't think Warren would talk to Naomi.
No.
I don't know.
I think Serena would have talked to Naomi about it because Serena knew about New Bethlehem. She tells June in the detention center. So maybe.
I don't know. I could imagine Warren having his third whiskey of the evening, telling Naomi, "Do you know what this asshole Lawrence wants to do?" I can imagine him slipping, like, giving her some gossip. I don't know.
Do you think Naomi knows about Lawrence not partaking in their ceremony with Elena? Do you think that's common knowledge?
No.
Because Serena seemed to know.
I think, like, because in a later scene when she talked to Janine and calls her of Joseph, that's when it kind of confirmed for me that she doesn't know that Lawrence is not performing the ceremony.
Do you think he would, now that he's married to somebody else?
That's a good question.
Nope.
I don't think so, but...
Well, he's doing this quid pro quo, he said to Naomi, right? So he's not going to be sleeping with Naomi, and he will expect Naomi to shut the fuck up about the ceremony not taking place.
Right.
So that she's safe and Angela is safe. He has, cards to play with her.
I think also, like, this scene in the dress room or dress shop, it also kind of felt like a threat to me, actually, when Aunt Lydia mentions Lawrence, that he would want Janine in the house. And so it's like a kind of, I mean, come on, this is your future husband, you're the wife, you need to do what he wants. So
totally
just agree on it.
You need to be thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I do think that she might know about the ceremony thing, just because it seemed like Waterford and Winslow seemed to know. I feel like it might be common knowledge a little bit that he's really loved Eleanor.
I just wanted to add a little note about, I remember when we were talking to Leslie and she was saying about all the fabrics that they'd used throughout the season. Maybe they didn't get used, maybe they didn't. I love the shot where the dress is on the, I think it's near the table, and you can see every single shade of teal. There's so many different colors of fabric.
I love that. It's very cool.
They're not allowed to wear any color but teal, and so they're stretching the word teal. Like
far.
The women are just like, we got to find more colors. Let's just use every shade of teal imaginable.
Back at Luke's house, Nicole is sleeping late and they're all enjoying a moment of peace. A short moment as there's knocking on the door. And as usual, when there's knocking on the door, it's Mark Tuello. I love how often this guy drops by. It's so funny. You can't just drop by places. This is 2022, Mark. But this time it's good news. They've apprehended the shooter from the memorial, just another angry man with a gun. There's millions of them out there. He said they don't know any ties to Gilead yet, but it sounds like from Nick and Lawrence's conversation that those ties exist. Then Tuello and June go for a stroll outside on the sidewalk, where June sympathizes with Mark. She knows what it's like to be responsible for people and lose them. And she says a little prayer, may God grant them rest, and you too. And Tuello takes his leave. At which point the camera spins as June takes in all the people that are moving out of the neighborhood. There's for sale signs, moving boxes. The protesters are obviously getting to the refugees. For some reason, she now walks in the middle of the road, even though she just bought a bulletproof vest. And she turns and sees the truck behind her, which is rocking Kokomo, by the way. Side note, my brother was born in Kokomo. My family lived there for a long time. So this song is always on my radar. And I'm not thrilled by the new association with it, you guys. Anyway, the car hits June and she goes flying. Great stunt work. And as she lays there, it backs up to back over her, reminiscent of Emily in season 2 with The Guardian. And as it comes in for a third go, Luke runs out of the house and yells, "Stop!" And the truck miraculously stops. He pulls the man out of the car and starts hitting him until the guy looks dead already to me. And then he calls for Moira for help.
My biggest thought was, why was she in the middle of the road? I know. I was sitting there going, okay, you were just almost assassinated and shot at. And now you're just so out in the open, just standing in the middle of the road for several minutes, it felt like. And so that's all I could think of in that scene was, get out of the road, June. There's a sidewalk. That's all I could think. You could almost sense she's going to get hit by a car. I mean, you could.
Yeah, why did she run on the lawn when this car was coming behind her? I was like,
yeah, she didn't move at all. When the car started from the sidewalk, it turned its lights on and started, even though it's daylight. So that immediately my attention was drawn to this car and what's going on there. So.
Yeah. It felt to me taken right of a horror movie when someone calls a woman in the house and she's there alone and she goes up the stairs instead of going outside or whatever. It's why are you going up the stairs. You're going to be trapped there.
Exactly. Like, get out.
I'm guessing you guys noticed the bumper sticker.
Yeah, with Gilead.
Gilead flag in Canadian colors. And I also thought in 508, when they're cleaning the graffiti off the floor, there's kind of like a foreshadow to that because there's a truck that speeds on by. And before that, I think Luke asks her, like, will this ever end? And she's like, no, it's only going to get worse. And yes.
Did you guys notice in the beginning of the scene when they're enjoying their relaxing moment that there's a bowl of apples on the table?
Yeah.
She finally got the apples.
Yeah.
Good for Nicole. She needed us.
She did.
Does anyone find it weird that Tuello still calls June Miss Osborne?
No.
No.
I like it.
Yeah.
I don't not like it. I just find it weird that he doesn't call her June.
Yeah, because she calls him Mark now.
Yeah.
Or at least when she's liking him.
Did she ever call him Mr. Tuello?
No, I don't think
I don't think so.
She called in a disappointment though. Fucking disappointment.
That's pretty personal.
Yeah.
On the note of like Tuello and June, I really like their bonding moment when they were all walking up to his car together. And when she told him that she knows how he must feel because she lost a lot of people on her journey too, I really thought that it seemed like she reached a point where she could forgive herself for the losses she caused. I don't know how you read it because she was like kind of casually cheering him up. It's like, I know how you feel and I hope you find some peace, quote unquote, like me.
Right. It seemed like she'd found her peace talking about it, I agree. I liked that aspect.
They're like soldiers and they know the casualties of war. They both do.
Yeah.
And that's how I see that.
It's like a kind of a continuation of what Lawrence said, like this is a war and everybody gets, and it's getting bloody. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Some of you have already said about horror movies and stuff, but I found especially jarring the bit where, obviously when he runs over June's arm, but then you like go from that shot to the transition and then the music seems to get, I don't know if it was just me, but it seemed to get louder and it goes in on her face when she realizes how much fucking pain she's just in because he's just literally run over her arm. And yeah, that was pretty, I just felt like, in that moment. I thought they did that really well.
It was very powerful.
The bone crunching sound too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Intense.
Also this when she's looking, like when the car is like before it backs up again and she's looking at the sky and sees the tree and the sun, it kind of reminded me of the finale of season 3 when she was shot and was looking at the trees and
and the dude was like revving his engines, like he was toying with it. He wanted to play with it, like
definitely.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he maybe is one of Mr. Wheeler's men, one of his goons.
Definitely could be. Did any of you have a problem with what Luke did?
No.
beat him up. No,
Absolutely not. No.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Way to go, Luke. Get him.
Agreed. Good job, Luke. Yay, Luke.
Yeah.
It is surprising, as you said, that the guy just stopped.
I was wondering if the guy, because you just mentioned it, I was wondering if the guy stopped and wanted to actually execute her by shooting her with the rifle. So that he didn't stop because Luke came out running, that he stopped the car, got his rifle, was about to go out, and then Luke came running up to him and grabbed the rifle he was about to execute June with. And then they had this fight.
I like that. Let's go with that.
To be sure that she's dead.
Finish the job.
Yeah. By the way, just for our listeners, occasionally they change things after our screener versions, like the ending music last episode. So if you hear something slightly off,
maybe it's not Kokomo.
Shit.
Well, it's still ruined in my head.
It's grown on me. I was a bit unsure at first, but it's grown on me.
You like it more now that it's associated with her being run over?
No, I don't like it more. I just mean with the scene. Like I think it
fitting.
It works better with the scene than I thought it did when I first watched it.
Well, it also works because of all of the fantasizing about Hawaii and the beach and all of that. Like, it's an interesting reality check to this beach dreaming.
I had one tiny note about in the kitchen when June is drinking the coffee and kind of like takes that deep breath by the window, and then she closes her eyes, and the knock on the door, and she opens her eyes like, for fuck's sake. Yeah. Like her look on her face is so great to me. Like I rewound it several times to watch that, because as she opens her eyes, she just looks like so annoyed.
Yeah.
I also like how she's wearing yellow in the sunlight, because she like, from having met her, she really is like sunshine personified. So I liked that. The next scene is at the hospital on the way into the ER. She's in a ton of pain. Luke's there. And then so are the police. They want to question Luke. And even though he's yelling, that guy tried to kill my wife, they say that they need to take him downtown for a statement. And June's in so much pain and does that thing. They do that thing where we start hearing less clearly as she's, probably going unconscious. I don't think Luke broke any laws. He literally saved her life. That man was going to kill June otherwise.
Was justified, yeah.
Yeah, it was self-defense.
Yeah, it was
self-defense. It was protecting, it was, helping somebody who was in the process of getting killed.
She was going to die otherwise, and he saved her life.
Especially if he was going to shoot her as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think he would actually ever get in trouble for that. I mean, he might have to do the standard investigation.
Yeah, to go through the motions.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not going to give him a fair trial because of the refugee situation, right? Like that's
He's also a black man as well, which
true.
Sure they will make a difference.
Yeah,
unfairly.
And I mean, the shows, that's kind of a theme of the show, is like, justice not being just. So
right,
even outside of Gilead,
should be interesting.
The way she was treated here, like medically treated, it seemed way worse than, again, when we started season 4 and she was about to die because of a gunshot wound, and she was already like delirious and whatever, and she was treated with a hair iron. Like this contrast to like, give her painkillers, give her that, and then it was amazing to see that kind of.
I prefer the Canada version myself.
Yeah. The way the scene ends with this jarring tone, like it makes my ear hurt. You too?
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so good. Yeah, it makes you like get into June's space, like how she's feeling.
Yeah, headspace. Yeah.
What you said, Julia, is interesting. She's been through a lot of pain, a lot more pain than so I'm wondering, was that scream? If it is a scream, is it because of pain, or is it because everything's just falling apart?
I think, like, honestly, I think we had this discussion before. It's exactly the sound you hear before you pass out. I can confirm that. Not just not this like loud and
Now to the beginning of a series of scenes I will rewatch forevermore, starting with Nick on the bridge. Before I can even get into the scene, the atmosphere is unbelievable to me. The foggy moonlit night, and we've seen some pictures from filming this night, but even those don't do justice to how like beautiful this scene came together with the content and the weather and the music. Holy shit. It's just one of my all-time favorites, everything. To the scene though, Nick gets out of the car, obviously worried, and starts walking across a very familiar bridge, last seen in last season's finale, the bridge that crosses from Gilead into Canada. Tuello greets him, Commander Blaine, and his soldiers frisk Nick, who tell him he has no weapons or wires. Nick's in a hurry and says, okay, let's keep moving. For some reason, I really liked the okay, and I really love Tuello's smile at Nick when he says, yes, sir.
Yep.
I think Tuello has an adorable man crush on Nick. It is the cutest. And there's just a really cool aerial shot of Nick walking into Canada. Yeah. And the music's fucking perfect. Yeah. It's so good. I love this scene. It's very short and I love it so much.
Did we, I know we talked about this before, but did we calculate like how long Nick has to drive to get here?
7 hours to the border. I was wondering if his Marta packed him some sandwiches for the road.
I did notice that he left his car running.
Yeah.
With the lights on.
Blocking the bridge. Yeah.
I just noticed that he was breathless.
Yeah.
The sound of the car speeding up. So you know that he was speeding up. I don't know how he blew through the checkpoints, but it was interesting to see how desperate he really was.
Yeah.
I wondered if the car has to be moved. Like, he's not allowed to drive into Canada, maybe. Like, so he has to stop and then maybe the border people will move his car for him. I don't know.
Well, he was looking around quite a lot. Like, I don't know. That seemed more like, holy shit, is anyone watching me right now?
Yeah.
I don't think he had the time to even plan this. He just literally got on the car.
Yeah.
He heard the news, called Tuello. I need to see her. Boom. Got in his car.
I would have loved to hear that phone call. There's so many phone calls. I need to hear. We could have a special episode of all the phone calls that happened.
We didn't have.
Like how panicked he was. Yeah.
I love how, I mean, did you guys think that the searching of Nick for guns and bugs and stuff was like a joke?
They really mailed that in.
No.
Yeah. It was just, protocol they had to do.
If you think of Ezra, this was light tapping, right?
True, that's true. I just felt like that has to show that Tuello really does trust him.
Tuello made that extremely clear in every single scene that they had together. You're a good man. I fully trust you. Like, it was nice to hear.
And you're alive. You're not like a Gilead corpse that he met.
Right. Keeping his head down, playing the...
Yeah, and he was like so stiff in the first interaction.
Yeah.
And here he's like, let's get moving. So Tuello was like, oh yeah, he's alive. This guy's alive.
It's got a purpose now.
I think Tuello's eyes were like, he was impressed by how much he cared. Like, he's like, oh, wow. He's really in love. This is love here,
Or he literally dropped everything. I doubt he told Rose, and he just drove to the border, like, that's amazing.
Didn't he miss a wedding? I mean,
I know, right?
He's like, peace out. Sorry, I was your best man, but I'm out of here.
So we kind of agreed it is like June was hit by the car or nearly killed like in the morning of the same day, right? And then Nick,
I think so, yeah.
Kind of, I don't know, got the news somehow through his channels.
Tuello had to have told him.
Must have been Tuello, yeah.
Or his eyes saw something.
And then he arrived in the evening of the same day, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Then Lydia is telling Janine about her new potential posting, and I thought Janine would be like thrilled, but I was wrong. Janine didn't think she'd ever have to be posted again, and even thought of being near her daughter isn't enough to make her want it. I wonder if she knows Lawrence doesn't do the ceremony. I'd have to think June told her that much because they were friends while June was posted there, but...
And Emily as well.
Yeah. Anyway, Janine comes around to the idea pretty quickly because she has to, and says she's very grateful, which delights Aunt Lydia.
But I think for Janine, the most important thing is that she's going to see Angela.
Totally.
She's going to, actually live with Angela. So that's, I think the ceremony is the thing that she can accept if she gets to spend time with her daughter.
That's the price she has to pay. Yeah.
That's at least what Aunt Lydia thinks. That's why she's starting with, I know a way how you can see or be with your daughter. And of course, Janine is ecstatic about this news. But I think when click that it is just a real posting again, I'm not sure because we kind of also left off in season 4 where she said, I don't want to get posted, just kill me. And I think she's
just drawing the line.
This really comes through this episode,
right?
Especially later.
Yeah. I mean, June reached a point where she was like not being raped anymore, not doing sexual, So I guess Janine reached that.
And I think this is the fire, like Maddie mentioned that Janine found her fire again, and she doesn't want to take this anymore. Like
yeah.
I know we heard them singing Hard Knock Life in the other scene, but when they were making their beds and how they showed it, it just reminded me so much of Annie. I don't know if it was just because they were singing Hard Knock Life earlier, but it reminded me of Annie again.
It is a lot like that with the evil aunts as well. Yeah.
Just like amazing, ominous wind howling sound. Did you guys hear that in that scene? Like a storm approaching or something. It's really cool.
That's Aunt Lydia.
Yeah.
Then Nick is looking in at June in the hospital room. Tuello approaches him, tells him she'll be moved to a room soon, and Nick just asks, and Luke? And when Tuello tells him they'll bring him to a room after the police finish questioning, he blinks a few times and decides it's probably best if she doesn't know I was here. No, it's not, Nick. But he's always doing the selfless thing, so it fits. Tuello tells him he's going to give him some privacy, and Nick goes in looking at a very beaten up June. He's seen her nearly dead before, and he lost it then. This time he seems completely heartbroken. He puts his hand on her wrist. That's all we're getting of their hand touches this season, guys, but it's something. And he looks on at her for a few moments, clearly so upset. Even though she's unconscious, it really is such a sweet scene. Eventually he gets up and gently kisses her forehead and walks out just before seeing her stir, looking happy and at peace the way he makes her. I love the continued fairy tale theme this season, and for me, this is like the real fairy tale. The prince woke his sleeping beauty with true love's kiss. Seriously though, I rewound and she didn't look nearly as happy or peaceful before the kiss, so I do not think it's unintentional.
I love that his whole bedside visit is silent. It's very Nick. and the acting, like just the length of time that he's sitting there silently emoting next to her and just going through all those different like small changes and what you can see him thinking about. It's like, oh man, so good. And then also when he's looking through the window, until what Kate said about him blinking, he doesn't blink for like so long. He's just like staring through the window and his eyes are just like focused. He doesn't even look over at Tuello. Like when Tuello walks up, he's just like can't look away from the window.
He obviously doesn't have dry eye syndrome. Damn, I can't go that long without blinking.
I just pictured him thinking, what June told him in 509, like how she wanted the world to just stop for a moment. And basically that's kind of what could have happened, like if she had died. And probably that would have been their last interaction. So I'm pretty sure he feels really guilty over how that went down, which sucks.
Yeah.
I just really felt the continuation of what he said in 5-9, how he felt was, he fully realizes, or at least he thinks that she is fully with Luke and reconnected because he cares so much about how Luke feels. And like, he doesn't want to interfere in their life. So it's like, he's fooled himself that she has moved on and he has obviously been trying. He's so selfless and how he's just worried about Luke. And, I don't want Luke to know I'm here. I don't want to interrupt them. He was just so crushed and he gives himself like no credit. He doesn't feel like he really should be there. And I love that Tuello was like, no, you should. I'm giving you alone time. Like you deserve this. Like, I love that somebody is there telling him, no, you should be here.
It's also a great parallel to episode 409 Progress when Tuello gave privacy to June so they could have a talk. And he gives the privacy to Nick.
Yeah.
This seemed like a good opportunity for Luke to maybe just glimpse them, as he's leaving or walking out or whatever. And then it could be a parallel to season 2 when Nick tells June every like single thing that Luke asked him to tell her, which is, obviously a scene that really elevated him and their relationship in my mind. Or him, I guess. A scene that really elevated Nick in my mind because that was did nothing but hurt him to tell that whole message. So I kind of expected Luke to see them here and then we would be able to see, well, what would Luke do in that situation? Is he going to tell June that he was here or is he not?
Oh yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been great.
The selflessness of Nick doing this, and then of him wanting to leave before Luke arrives. Like, I totally agree with you guys. I think like that would have been amazing. But I think the impact of what Nick did and the sacrifice of being like, I'm going to stay here for literally 15 seconds and leave because I don't want to run the risk of Luke seeing me or of her waking up and realizing I was here and like fucking things up for them. Like, I think that part would have been less, it would have landed less hard and less like crushing.
That was what I was going to say, that he was there purely for the first and probably just for himself. He wanted to be there just to make sure for himself that she was okay. And he didn't want anything from her. He wasn't expecting to see her, probably not even be able to spend any time with her. He just wanted to know that she was okay. And it kind of like reminded me, Kate just spoken about episode 9 in season 2. He's there again. He's not there for himself. He goes to Luke because he wants to give us some information about June. Obviously, if that was him, he would want to know how June is. And you've seen him asking about how June is all season and about Nicole. And that's why he goes to Luke. It's not to glow. It's not to like, say anything about his relationship with June. It's about to give him enough information, and just because June would want that and because he wanted to get the letters out. But it's just very similar. It's not something new. That's what Nick does. It's just he's so selfless. And for the first time ever, he's probably just he just needed to see her and he just didn't want to disturb her life at all. And that's why he was worried about Luke being there and how that would affect him, rather than being worried about himself.
June's left him in the dark about what's going on with Luke. I mean, we've seen them struggling and she hasn't communicated that to Nick. And that needs to be communicated to Nick in some fashion so that he understands how important he is to her.
In another way than in the previous episode where he mentions that he needed to get married and has a wife now, and then she's like, oh yeah, I have a husband too.
I have Luke too.
I've got Luke.
But he kind of made it seem like it's the other way around. Like, he has this idea that she went back to Luke. And in 509, you know, when you see it, you kind of think that she kind of thinks that he made his choice. That's why she doesn't push the issue of him coming to Canada further. That's why she went to see him. She didn't went to see him to like for him to keep spying on Gilead. She just wanted to know why he didn't take the deal. Like in my head canon, you know, like I agree with every single one of you. Like this all would be solved if they would just sit down and fucking have a conversation.
Communication.
Yes, come on.
But they never have had this. And I think everything is unfortunately in between the lines because they have these obligations, but the I love yous are still there, you know, and she simply is not going to fuck up what, you know, he thinks is a good life, which is ridiculous because she wants him out of Gilead. She wants him to be safe, but he thinks that if Lawrence can pull this off, then this is something good, I guess. So it's just a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah.
That will be solved if they talked.
They've never really needed to talk. Like they always get sort of like they feed on each other's vibes and how they feel. Like they know how the other feels by just being around them. But in episode 9, both of them are really guarded of their own feelings. They're like burying them. They've had to for so long that they can't even communicate that with like the way they do usually, and that's why they right now they need to speak to each other, which they never had to because they just that communication has always been really like flowing between the both of them with
non-verbal. Yeah,
but now they're like they're hiding those feelings. Probably they're hiding it to themselves as well. Like, you know, June, I don't think she's allowed herself to sit down and be like, I'm still in love with Nick.
100%.
And Nick has been doing the same thing, like he said at the end of the episode. Like, I really, really tried to, like, you know.
Nick got there by the end of the episode. He said, okay, I tried to move on. I tried to be happy as she asked me to, as I always offered her to be. And we've seen in the end of the episode that Nick cannot move on. He cannot stop loving her, even though if he tries. So question is what is June's headspace?
He's realized that I don't know, one of you, I think it was Megan, mentioned that could have been the last time they were together, and he was like hiding so much of what he actually wanted to say, which is what Max said on the behind the episode of 9, that, you know, he's kind of saying what he thinks he should be saying but not how he really feels. And then he's realized that shit, this could have been it. That could have been the last time I ever saw her, and you know, I've fucked up and I've not communicated how much I care about her. And again, it's not about how he feels or how she feels about him. It's just about the way you know, he's not given her enough. When she was asking, you know, a moment of like forgetting about the world, and he kind of like rejected her.
Right. She was fully anticipating a kiss. She was like,
she wanted that. My only other note was that it just reminded me of like maybe how Nick was feeling after the wedding with Eden when he finds her in the rain. And obviously we don't know how long she's in the hospital, but he probably got no information out about her well-being for like, I don't know, hours or maybe even a day. So I would have loved to see him struggling with life. Really, really sad. So I think that's kind of like a call back to that.
Like this is so similar to that, because that's what both times, the only time you've really seen him break in Gilead was when she's nearly dead and he doesn't give a shit about the facade anymore. He's like, I love this woman, help, you know? So that's sad.
The bit that killed me was when he's looking at her, but then he looks away and he's got like his thumb on his, I don't know, his lip or his chin, and then he looks back and his eyes are just so sad, and it killed me.
Oh yeah. I mean, his looks always kill me. I'm like,
what killed me was the little tap with the thumb at the end, right before he walks out of the hospital room.
What killed me was like, did you see how like he hardly leans on the bed? Like he just puts his hands there, just like doesn't put any pressure on the mattress. He doesn't want to move her or disturb her in any way.
It's true.
I was just thinking that maybe the times that we kind of thought that Nick was maybe out of character, because in the Gilead scenes, maybe it was just simply because he was trying to fit into those shoes that don't fit, and he was just trying to play the part. Like once I saw this episode, I kind of like, oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah. We even discussed that Max didn't seem to be like himself this season as well. Like, and I think now that that was on purpose. Like he really was trying to like, you know, have no emotion. Like he's just really have his Gilead mask on. So I think that was probably intentional, because he showed so much in the last episode.
Yeah. Simply being out of character the whole season.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because of Rose. Like,
I think we have established that they all need to do something to survive and to wear a mask.
We can't speak freely at all.
Yeah.
Or honestly, yeah. Okay. On the next scene, back to the bridge. One way you can tell if Lizzie's directing is the number of shots of Nick's neck. Lizzie's definitely directing this episode. They're back on the bridge and Tuello approaches him from behind again. And we find out Nick took Tuello's deal, or a new deal. All it took was June in the hospital and everything was clear to Nick again. Tuello has a contract for him to sign, even though he tells Nick if it were up to him, he wouldn't make him sign anything. He trusts him that much and tells him he would call him an honorable man. And Mark looks forward to working with him. Mark Tuello loves Nicholas Blaine the way we do. It's lovely. Nick tells him he'll keep the end of the deal if Mark will just keep her safe, and Mark says, I'll do what I can. Nick says that's just not good enough. Gilead's going to keep coming for her. And Mark repeats, I'll do what I can. And to be fair to Mark, that's all he can do, especially with this particular stubborn woman. But Nick is really frustrated and sarcastically says okay and walks away, patting his head in frustration. It's like a very cute little patty pat, as Kimberly said. But
that's literally what I wrote in my notes. I wrote patty pat pat.
It was cute though, right? Was it not a notably cute?
Yeah, it was a cute little tippy patty thing.
But as Nick's leaving, Tuello has one more question for Nick. He thinks that Nick could have run away with June, not to Canada, but I guess to some safer area within Gilead to just be with her and live with her instead of repeatedly trying to get her back to Canada with her husband, Luke. The implied question is why, and he tells Mark it's because she has people who love her. She doesn't need him. He's nothing. And it's heartbreaking to hear that because we've always been able to tell that that's how he feels about himself. But to actually hear him state it is just crushing. And then Tuello, season MVP and apparently the world's biggest secret Nick and June shipper, tells him, you're not nothing, Commander. And then he pauses and adds, not to her. And I forgive him for every shitty thing I've ever hated him for. I'm that easy. I love this scene so much.
He has redeemed himself.
I'm not letting you off. I'm not letting you off at all. You cannot be the number one on Tuello's bandwagon now.
Get in the line, Kate.
Yeah, get in line.
I know. You guys were all there long before. Oh, I love the scene so much. I love that someone is finally telling Nick he's important and loved, and it's something that he needed to hear. He still needs to hear it from June, but I will be absolutely thrilled with this for the next year. And with that, Tuello tells him to go in grace. Nick walks back to Gilead as an official U.S. spy with immunity. Hooray! Well, not about the Gilead part, but the rest.
I did not like it when Tuello, I know why he did it, why he said, why didn't you run away with her? You could have because you were an eye. And I get what he was saying there. I know that it would have been easier for him to like set up or plan his own escape, but it's still dangerous. It's still not a guarantee. We saw that with him and how he organized June's first escape attempt and how that didn't go well for her. That would have been the same thing for him. Look at the driver that showed up on the plane. He was shot and killed.
I was about to say, yeah, the Guardian.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, he was a driver / eye or whatever. He got himself to the plane, but what happened when he was on the plane? Boom, boom, boom. He was caught dead. So there's still a risk that it's not as easy.
Yeah, you can just.
Yeah. And plus, where would he go?
Out west to the coast.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Go west and live in a cabin with June and your daughter, so, all by yourself, and that's it. But that's just not, Nick would never do that because
it's a dream.
Well, and he wouldn't do that because, like he said, I'm not going to take that choice away from her. No. I'm not going to be like, you're coming with me, even though she knows her husband is alive. And if she were to get free, I mean, she needs to make that choice. If she's going to run away with Nick or if she's going to go make it work with Luke when she is free, And
there's also the fact that she's never wanted to leave. Like that would take her away from Canada as well. And she's never actually wanted that. She didn't even want to leave for Canada. Like that's just not something that Nick would have just done for her, like force her to go away somewhere. Like that's just
she would never forget Hannah. So that's another reason. Yeah, they could never have done that. That was never on the table. And Nick would never think himself worthy of her. So
and she never mentioned it even to him.
I mean, they talked about Hawaii, but that was, just a brief fantasy.
Yeah.
That I would still like to see.
I think that's the reason, though, or why he wouldn't ever, explain that to Tuello, because that's not even, the danger of it wouldn't be the reason he wouldn't do it. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just this one quick note. I think Nick also kind of brushed over this implication because most of the drivers are eyes, which is completely over the reason why he joined the eyes in the first place, because he had a had a good reason to do that, because he wanted to get back at those commanders and after Offred 1
that's
killed
when
herself. That was his main reason.
And he took down the commander that started the Handmaids.
Commander Guthrie.
After that. So it's not that he is just he was just an eye, because everybody is. Like you're saying, there was a big deal. There was a reason. When he saw the first Handmaid kill herself, he joined up to immediately take down the person that started the Handmaid system. So I agree that.
Yeah, but it's not the place for Nick to tell Tuello all his reasoning for doing things.
Like after the first Handmaid killed himself, that's when he became a plainclothes operative, which was like, for me, like that's how I took it. I think we talked about it when we did the episode. Like a deeper eye. I don't know how to explain it.
An eye on an eye on an eye.
Eye on an eye on an eye. And I think the reason for, the question and the answer is just to keep adding to the, like, I just didn't think I didn't think she wanted me there. I didn't think that I was worth leaving. And like Max said, he didn't know anything else. So he just, like we've been talking about for the 94 episodes, like he just doesn't, I guess his redemption, his whatever he thinks of what he's doing or why he's staying in Gilead.
No one has ever really acknowledged this out loud to Nick before, like Tuello's doing, like any of this. Like you could have run away with it. Like I just, like, obviously there's a lot of stuff that we've just been discussing that's like wrong with that or whatever, or like that Tuello doesn't know about the logistics of that happening. But it's also probably shocking to hear someone say that, because that's always just been like his fantasy that's completely not based in reality. And now Tuello's like saying it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not realistic to think that he would have done it, or that he really could have, or that he would have like pushed her to do that. I think this whole scene is just making him like think about things and like waking him up more to everything.
Yeah. Which is okay. But I just feel like maybe he's taking it like, I don't know, he already says that he feels like it's nothing. So no, he's going to go back and feel like, I could have done more. I could have, don't know, he felt like it wasn't the right thing to say at that point. And I know why they put it there, but it just felt really unfair on Nick, because it's not because he wouldn't have done it or because he didn't want to do it. It's just that it doesn't seem realistic that he,
Did you guys think it was weird that Nick didn't read like one sentence of the thing he signed?
He doesn't give a shit.
He just doesn't give a fuck.
He does not give a fuck. Yeah.
I was wondering if he already knew that he was going back and blow
what
the
he's
contract.
About to do?
Yeah.
I think it was more that exactly what happens 2 seconds later. He asks for protection, and he's given like a line. It's not a promise, because Tuello does not promise. He says he's going to do his best, not that he is going to actually. And it makes a difference for Nick. So he doesn't trust governments. And he was like, what the fuck, whatever, give me whatever, I'm going to sign it, because you allowed me to go to see her, and your words, I know you can't keep her safe, but that's why I think he didn't even look what was there.
Like, he doesn't care about himself. All he cares about is what he verbally just said to Tuello. Like, whatever's on that paper, whatever it says, I go to jail, whatever it says, I don't care about myself. The only thing I care about is what I'm verbally asking you. Please make sure she's safe.
I'm just glad that they showed that he literally took the deal just for her.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of the bridge, Tuello says, now that we fulfilled our end of the bargain, and that's how you get that he did all this just for her, which I think was great.
Yeah, and to grant her even more protection, right? Because
and to protect her. Yeah.
He doesn't know what's going to happen to Luke.
Yeah.
Right.
Luke is kind of protection for June.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he's going to do. And I felt it also when he was standing on the bridge with the shot of his neck. And then we see him from the front. I don't know. I felt like he was really dreading going back in. Sure. He was thinking like, I could actually stay here. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go back to that life. I hate it. Like I saw it in his face.
He's walking away from June, obviously something that he doesn't want to do, especially afterwards.
Yeah, he doesn't have any guarantees that she's going to be protected, and the whole clusterfuck of Gilead is wearing him down as well. So,
but a sense of responsibility for Rose and his child is also there. So he has actually no real choice.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of interesting how. Right, like Tuello has the I'll do what I can. Nick thinking, that's so frustrating and like aggravated by the lack of assurance. But then like a few seconds later, when Nick's like so emotionally vulnerable, like saying the I'm nothing, it seems like it's just an interesting contrast how Tuello is showing that he really kind of does care about him enough to say, no, you're not, Commander. Like that was just, I just wondered how that would hit Nick if he's thinking, I don't matter to these people, they don't care about us. And then to hear Tuello say, like, you matter as a human being, like, not just what you can offer the government. Like, because that's not, him saying that to him is not really anything to do with the contract. It's just a personal thing between them, a personal exchange.
Yeah. Right. And I like too that he started with, you're not nothing, before he said not to her, because I feel like what you're saying, I feel like Mark is saying it to him too, you know, like.
Yeah, I felt that too.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, he really does care for June. Now he's just not saying it like, you know, he's not going to look after her or try to keep her safe purely because, you know, he signed a contract. Right. So it's not just that, like, he really does care for that family and they're both close friends enough to, you know and notice that she's clearly in love or cares a lot about Nick. So yeah, I don't think he just said, you know, I'm just going to do my best. I think it was important that he kind of like conveyed that with what he said about, yeah, you know nothing, and obviously I do care for both of you and for your child, even though I am using you, but we're helping each other, as he said in episode 2. I
feel like that too. It's still unfortunate to me that I feel like Serena had to be removed from the equation for him to really like bond with June. I don't know, but whatever, I forgive him.
The thing with Tuello is like, I know he cares. I mean, obviously the Serena thing is at a different level, but he also has his own agenda and he also has his own priorities. I'm not saying that he doesn't care. I think he genuinely does care and has that empathy, but that empathy also helps him connect with these people and get what he wants.
I think there might be a different, like a change in his like motivation after what's happened with the military attack. Yeah. He's got that in his conscience now. Like he probably feels very guilty about that. So yeah, he probably sees himself in a different sort of light as well. So I wonder if he feels a little bit more personal about the whole situation with everybody that, you know, between Gilead and Canada and well, the US.
Yeah.
Talking about what Scarlett was saying about how Nick only did this to make sure that June is safe, and that's what he cares about. He mentions that it's not just June, it's her family as well. And I think that includes Luke. And I think it's really is important to note that he cares that much about her, that, you know, it's not about a competition between the two men for him. Like he just wants her to be happy, and he wants her to be happy with her family. So yeah, I think that was really important as well, that he's signing, that he's making this deal to like protect her and her family.
Yeah. And I had to think of 504, I think it was 504 or 505, where Luke is talking to Serena, and Serena says that June had Nick's support. And this is like exactly what Nick has ever been to June. He always been a support. He was never posing any expectations and calling her his whatever. He has always seen himself in this role of just being there for her.
Unconditionally.
Yeah, that's very true. That reminds me of, let me protect you is I think what Luke says. And then I just thought back of, and I think it's 403, when he tells her, let me help you. You know, when she's in the back of the van. So it's like a contrast there too.
Then June's back in her handmaid window in Luke's room, and Luke comes in with a gun tucked into his pants. June asks if he's comfortable having a gun around Nicole, and he says, yeah, whatever's necessary to protect them. This isn't going to be like Boston, he says. And she realizes he probably thinks Boston was his fault, so she tells him it wasn't, and he tells her he's not going to let anyone hurt her. He kisses her on the head and tells her to get some rest, and she lays down on the bed with her arm cast and face bruised, and just poor June.
There's more wind howling noise in the scene too, like there was in the Janine
There's
scene.
a storm a brewing.
I guess so, yeah.
What I noticed were the two mirrors that took like 2/3 of the frame and mirrored like dead space in the bedroom, so you could see like really dead space between bed and a radiator. Felt like something else was, you know, crushing June. Like visually there was like this huge giant thing that was, you know, pushing her to the side. And I also did a little research about mirrors, and it can symbolize a feeling of disorientation or a threshold to the mind. So
it would go through the theme of the horror.
What is worth noting is that June absolves Luke from his guilt in the sea.
Yeah, that was nice of her.
Do you think it's truthful though? Because she mentions something afterwards, which is what my notes were, but I don't quite remember. I think later on she said something about we didn't run away when we should have. Like, I do think she kind of like blames herself, maybe not for what happened in the whole country, but I do think didn't make sense because she was like, okay, well, you know, if we run away when we tried to, or we discussed that we're going to, maybe Hannah would be where she is now.
I think she basically like she's not blaming him directly for what happened. Even if she's frustrated with how things went, I don't think that she puts that on him as his fault.
I've always said she deserves equal blame for that Boston piece. Like they both didn't protect their daughter. They both should have left earlier.
She definitely blames herself as well.
Well, and in this scene, I feel like she's deferring to Luke a little bit because she's saying, are you comfortable having the gun around Nicole? Like we could get the police to guard us. Like she's still kind of acting a little bit like she did in Boston. Not exactly the same, but kind of like letting him, and how she's been doing for most of the season, like kind of giving him like, what do you think we should do? Even though her instincts are right and she needs to listen to them.
Yeah.
And obviously that changes like in the very next scene. So I'm wondering if what Raquel is saying, like, yeah, maybe in this scene she's saying it's not your fault because she's back in that frame of mind thinking like
protecting him.
Right. And then in the next scene she finally kind of, the fire is lit and she's like, no, fuck that, we're leaving now. We should have left earlier. That's the truth. That's how I really feel.
Yeah, well, that's how she felt, and I think we see that in 107. There's a lot of little bits and pieces in the scenes coming up about like the first opening scene of episode 1 in Luke's episode, which is 107. There's a lot of bits and pieces of it from those moments, so it's really interesting.
Then we're getting ready for Lawrence's wedding to, once again, perfect music, very pretty wedding cake, lots of Marthas bustling. And then we see Janine is there. And Naomi's telling her she decided to let her stay, but Angela's with her grandparents for the summer. That blows. So she won't get to see her. Naomi tells her to remember that she's her daughter, not Janine's, and Lydia gets real nervous, but Janine answers the right way, and Lydia is like visibly relieved. I love Naomi's attire in this scene. It's so extra, and that's one of the darkest teals I've seen yet, I think. And then the teal curlers are like just too much. They are delightful. At first I thought that was like her wedding outfit and it was like hairpiece or something. And I was like, whoa. And then I realized, oh, thank God they're curlers. Okay. She even offers to include Janine in the household portrait, and nothing could have delighted Lydia more. She's so proud of everyone she's manipulating here. After Lydia congratulates Janine and makes sure she's going to be a good girl, she leaves the room and a Martha comes in and breaks some terrible news to Janine. June's been hit by a truck on purpose and she's hurt. They want to kill her in Toronto. I love when Janine asks, my June? And after she confirms it is, Janine's really upset. In fact, her upset face in this scene fades into the same face in the portrait. They're taking a lot of pictures, which Lawrence is tolerating until Naomi puts her hand on Lawrence's arm and then he yells, enough, and tells everybody to get back to work. Everybody leaves the room except Janine and Naomi is legit trying to make friends with Janine here. I was actually kind of excited about seeing a few episodes of this before it falls directly off a cliff. Naomi calls her Janine at first in the scene, but then when she says off Joseph, Janine like breaks. She tells her, I am not your friend. You are one of the worst people I know. I hate you, Naomi. How can you not know that? And Lawrence in the background in another room is calling Mrs. Putnam, Naomi, darling, may I have a moment? Hilarious.
That was so good.
That's one of my favorites.
And Naomi looks so beautiful here, and she looks so sad at the end of the scene, and she's blinking back tears as she goes to respond to Lawrence calling for her. Janine looks victorious as she walks upstairs, and I felt horrified, to be honest. As much as it's true and the right thing to say to like Serena for June, that's because she's free, and in this it was just not smart of Janine to do this here. I'm not sure it was a worthwhile.
I think once that Naomi, well, apart from the fact that, you know, she heard about June, I think what was the point? She literally shipped Angela off for 3 months to her grandparents.
You're right. That was big.
For the summer. 3 months? Like she literally shipped Angela off. Like that's crazy.
Right. The kid's like 3.
Like,
bye. Ships her away for the summer. Yeah.
But also maybe she doesn't want Angela to be around the adjusting like within the households, because like she immediately needs to remarry like this, like for Angela it is like Lawrence is just a stranger and a new house, and adapting like to this new circumstances is really, really hard for 3-year-old kid, I guess.
When it cuts from the Martha telling Janine about June, and you see like Janine's face, and then it cuts and it's her face still, but it's like the wedding photos. You hear this like ticking sound in the background, and it made me think of a bomb about to go off. And I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
and then
it was really
the
cool.
Camera flash noise goes off, it sounds like an explosion.
Yeah, or like a gun firing. I wrote down it's like a firing squad or something.
I felt like it was like a clock ticking out on Janine's like ability to keep it together. Like that's what it felt like. Janine was like tick, 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 and then she was like, fuck it.
Right.
I love watching Aunt Lydia's facial expressions when Naomi was like, Angela's been shipped off for 3 months. And then she was like, oh my God, Janine,
oh my God.
You're gonna blow it, you're gonna blow it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really funny to watch.
I love it. Like another scene where you don't need any words to understand all the emotions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this show does so well.
When they first started the scene, and it's just like the French sounding music and the cakes and the macarons and everything. And Naomi like really marked her territory here. When the Martha's carrying like that layer cake in, I just kept thinking she looked so like terrified of dropping it.
Yeah.
It'd be put on the wall if she did.
Yeah.
This whole sequence was just one shot again, right?
I didn't pay attention, but it did feel that way.
I felt that it felt like the funeral in episode 2, like when they moved in and you have this camera moving through the house, through the rooms, and okay, there's the macarons, and it's just like a dance again. It's just like everybody is performing something,
doing their part.
And and I felt like, oh my God, Lizzie has a funeral and a wedding to direct, kind of.
Yeah, she did.
I really like that Janine said that I hate you. How can you not know that? Because I feel like that's, we've had June and Serena had this really, the line between love and hate between the two of them has been very uncomfortably blurred this season. And it felt like that was exactly what the relationship should be. And that's something June should have said. And I feel like when she said to her on episode 8, I think it was, that they're not friends, it was more like that sort of like, I hate you. And, that sort of hate from Janine towards Naomi trying to be nice to her felt really cathartic to me. And I like that they put that there.
Yeah.
Did anyone find it weird when she called her Janine?
Yeah, at first, yeah. I thought that was good though, and then she called her off Joseph.
Yeah, so why did she call her Janine and then she switched off to her? She had like a moment, like she
maybe
just,
it's just weird because she wanted her to be friends with her in that moment. So why would you at that moment have switched off Joseph? That doesn't make sense to me.
I feel like every time she kind of like lets herself be nice to her, she feels like she's like in a way weaker than she should be, and she really doesn't let herself be that person. That's why she kind of like really tries to like be mean to her by saying, I am her mom, and I'm gonna go you off your stuff now.
Yeah, she's just reminding her of her place. Yeah, definitely.
Right. I feel like I started to like Naomi, and then I don't know, this episode.
Same. I was a little bit sad by that.
Yeah,
it was so nice until now. Like episode 2 when she had them cuddle, and then when she visited Janine on her bed, and then like boom off Joseph, and it's like, ugh. Everything's destroyed again.
Back at Luke and June's, June goes downstairs as Moira, Rita, and Luke are arguing, and Luke commands her to go upstairs, which I didn't love, but she ignores him and finds out that Rita's police friend told her they're going to arrest Luke for killing the guy that tried to run her over. He died in the ICU. And Luke says he's glad he protected his wife, and he does his rambling thing that he does in the cages, kind of a defense mechanism. But she touches his arm and says, Luke. And finally he listens as she gives an amazing speech that gave me chills. We didn't leave in time last time. We need to leave right now. Luke says, Canada's not Gilead. And June points out, America wasn't Gilead until it was too fucking late. Luke, we have to run now. And they do. They're rushing out the door, and Moira's made a couple flights for them to Hawaii. It is one of the last American states, so I suppose it makes sense. Tuello pulls up and tells them they can't go to the airport. The warrant for Luke's arrest is out, and they flag their reservation already. Tuello's here to help them, but June doesn't get that yet. As she argues with him, they tried to kill her, and they're going to keep trying to kill me. They're going to go through. They're going to kill my daughter to get to me. We're not safe here. Tuello agrees. No, you're not. and he can get them on a train out of here tonight with tons of other refugees Canada doesn't want anymore. Anyway, Tuello for MVP again. He's immediately fulfilling his promise to Nick. Notes on that scene.
Just to talk about the horror theme again, when June woke up, like, she scared the shit out of me a little bit, because like when she came to her door, like half of her face slid this way so you could see like half of her face. It like reminded me of someone creeping.
Lizzie is a big horror fan.
Yeah. And Nick Daly said that they watched a bunch of horror movies before to get ready for this episode.
I think this is like an exact parallel to them leaving, the United States in the first episode, which sucks because it really hit me when she asked Tuello, like, what about Nicole? And he's like, you'll lose her. So it's like losing another daughter all over again. And before they agreed to go to the train, like, Luke has the same attitude he had in 107, which I thought was really interesting. It's like, oh, I'll take my chances in the airport. Again, he's heard June. He knows they have to leave, but he's still holding on to that. I guess maybe being a little oblivious to what the situation is in, especially because he said Canada is not Gilead. But I mean, it is going to happen. We've seen it throughout season 4 and 5, especially. Like, I think it moved fast, but I think it was because the testimony, in seeing Serena pregnant, and the fact that I think it's known that June killed Fred, or something happened to Fred, because that also gave Serena a lot more fans. So that brings the sentiment of what we're seeing being stronger. So I think it's interesting.
I really loved Rita saying that Luke was underreacting to the situation.
That was my favorite Rita part this season.
Yeah.
What I also noticed is that in 2 or 3 scenes before, Luke is promising June he's going to protect her. He got a gun. He doesn't want to have police around the house. He wants to be the one protecting June. And in this scene, it struck me really when Moira says that people who hate refugees are going to be after him. And he says, well, fuck them. Mm-hmm. How are you gonna protect June when you are, beaten again, shot, when you are in jail, when you are questioned by police, when the people don't stop coming around and, throwing shit in your face? How are you going to protect June? So it's exactly like you guys said, Scarlett and Violet, that he's, retreating to 107 or 101, Luke, because this is his natural reaction. Yeah. It's June who's snapping out of it.
It's surprising though, because in 508 he does say, like, should we get out of here?
Yeah.
Should we leave Toronto? Yeah. So I am surprised that now he is back.
That's not management of a dire situation. This is like planning.
It's not real.
Ahead.
It's just
it's not like knocking on his front door.
It does give you the opportunity to take the upper hand in the situation that she wished she had done in Boston. I think.
Yeah, that's what I loved.
Of letting him reverting back so that June can be like, no, I'm changing this. I'm going to be the one to follow my gut and do what you have to do.
June wants to make a better decision than last time when they were in Boston. And that's why she's just so hard and so immediately and so frantic in getting out.
And that's why I was so moved. I love this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Tuello kind of already makes it possible for them. Like he saw, okay, they want to flee by a plane. It will not gonna happen. But I also promised Nick to take care of her and to make sure that she's safe. And so I've got this option. At least it's not perfect, but I can offer it to them. And he's true to his words, which I think he's always been. Mm-hmm. Like he has kind of a flaws. He's a politician, but he never made promises he can't keep, I think.
Right.
And I was really satisfied that he already made sure that there's an option for June and her family to be safe.
I love that he handled it immediately.
Do you think he already arranged that before they knew about what happened to the guy that tried to kill them? Was that his plan of taking them out away from any danger and somewhere that Gilead doesn't know where they are?
I think he came up with it after his Nick bridge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it didn't have anything to do with what happened to Luke, and he's really he's not going to be charged for it.
It looks like it was something that was already in motion.
Yeah.
People coming to Toronto. So it must have taken place.
Yeah.
The idea for it, at least.
He already has somebody in the train that, We know he probably helped.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's
she
why I thought
didn't make it alone.
So yeah, is this like this camp of refugees from Gilead, like Tuello was talking about? Is this like refugees who are already in Canada, who are now concentrated in Toronto and then move to another place?
It sounded like they're just coming in. It sounded like they're just coming in and they didn't want them, so they knew they had to keep it moving.
Okay.
With him saying people are coming from all over, I personally understood from all over Canada.
That's what I understood too.
People from all around Canada are coming back, getting on the trains, going to Vancouver and fucking off to
heading
the
west.
US of A.
I love it with the same music. Like they move from the scene from Tuello fulfilling his word to Nick into Nick presumably doing the exact opposite of what he just told Tuello when he said, I'll fulfill my side of the deal. But this is an amazing scene. I love it so much. So Nick walks into what is apparently Joseph and Naomi's wedding reception, walks right by his wife calling out to him and straight up to Lawrence on a mission. He yells, hey, to get his attention. And then when Lawrence turns, he just socks him. He punches him hard in the face in front of everybody, the commanders, the wives, everybody's watching. And he yells, you could have killed her. You could have fucking killed her. And it is amazing. Stupid as fuck, but it's amazing. Finally, Nick breaks. And of course, it's because of June. 7 years of keeping his head down and playing the game to stay alive, playing the long game. And he has broken before when he found June nearly dead in the rain. So when her life is in danger, keeping his cover and staying alive does not matter to him. She's blinded by Hannah. He's blinded by June. Anyway, he throws it all away with this punch. And Lawrence looks hurt, like not physically.
No.
But no, Lawrence looks as if he's crushed that Nick has just fucked up his life, you know? He tells him, it wasn't me, Commander. And I think if he'd done this in private, Lawrence would have totally let it slide. But he didn't do it in private, and Mackenzie is staring at him, knowing everything now. Nick is fucked. But what a scene! And again, the fucking music is unbelievable. Like every single scene has been elevated so much by Adam's music. I can't even deal. He better win an Emmy for the season.
He fucked himself. I mean, if he wouldn't have said anything and just punched them, maybe things would not look as bad. But, you know, he admitted to like, you know, it was for her. And we already know the commanders made the decision to assassinate her. So there's really no, like, who's he talking about? So he's fucked.
Yeah, he just committed suicide, basically. It's like, bye, Nick.
I had a really interesting thought about that though, because if we assume that it was a Gilead hit, but the guy was a Canadian citizen, so it's possible that he was just like a Gilead fanatic, and then Nick just totally ruined it all for nothing. Like that's possible.
Lawrence said it wasn't my decision.
Right.
I think it was definitely Gilead.
Yeah.
The decision has been made with or without Lawrence. Maybe he probably, if he was on the vote, he probably voted with everyone else because he needs the other commanders to support New Bethlehem.
Right. And it wasn't going to change anything.
And I mean, he could have warned Nick, right? He could have said, this is the decision. I had nothing to do with it, but you do with this information what the fuck you want. I feel like it's the least Lawrence could have done if he knew about the decision, and it looks like he did. So
that's where the betrayal was right there.
Yeah.
Not telling Nick beforehand and not telling June, because historically Lawrence and June have been close.
Yeah, you can see that he feels bad.
I was going to say that he feels like the way he says that, like, it wasn't my decision. He's like trying to like get Nick to sort of feel better for him. But it also seems to be like maybe giving himself away as well. Like he's kind of been helping Nick with what was going on with June. Like it really seemed like he shouldn't probably said what he said to Nick, but he really wanted to like make sure that, I don't know, like he really wanted to get Nick to like him more, or like don't hate him so much, because like it wasn't
I wouldn't have killed her.
It was somebody else. Yeah, like he was trying to defend himself, but in front of everybody else doesn't look good.
It also shows that, you know, to the other commanders, Lawrence didn't tell Nick. It wasn't my decision. If Mackenzie was kind of like also keeping an eye on Lawrence, there's no way Lawrence was going to tell Nick or tell June. I mean, it sucks because I know he cares, but I've always known that Lawrence is about survival, and he's not going to make that decision himself to kill her. But if he has to go along with the decision, he will. Like we saw that in Chicago, you know, and it sucks because I know he cares. Even in the last episode when she tells him about Eleanor, what he says to her is, yes, but still Eleanor would have wanted me to help you with Hannah. and he still tries to help her with Hannah. So, you know, it just sucks because I love Lawrence.
Yeah, but I also feel like I've heard Bradley say it in interviews that Lawrence is a pragmatic, and I believe that he believes Nick has become as pragmatic as he is. So he sees that Nick had moved on in a way from June. So he has a wife, there's a kid on the way. It's like a trolley situation for Lawrence. So it's either June who's going to get killed, or it's a New Bethlehem, or the population of Gilead that's gonna, suffer from New Bethlehem not taking place. So I think in his all calculations, Lawrence doesn't even see Nick being with June on the train tracks and being, killed on the way. He sees Nick with him on the lever, making the decisions. So Lawrence decided, well, it looks like to me at least, that Lawrence decided to do this all to have his plan realized, to have New Bethlehem realized, because he needs the other commanders. So he decided to sacrifice June, thinking that maybe Nick moved on and, we'll get over it. I don't know. It kind of looks like this to me. I don't know.
I think like Lawrence knows very much how Nick feels about June because of like season 4, episode 3, when Nick says he can't move on. He just wants her to stay alive. I don't know. I think he took the risk of losing Nick in this gamble, and it backfired a lot in this scene because Nick outed Lawrence too. When it seemed like that they had a kind of agreement to not hurt June.
I feel like it wasn't so much that he would have been happy with June getting killed. I don't think that Lawrence would ever think that, but I think he really did think that Nick was trying to like move on from her. I think there's a difference between, he's got his life here with his kid and Rose, and actually being okay with June being dead. I don't think Lawrence would ever think that. I don't think he had a choice. I think he probably was given a choice of like, okay, we're going to get rid of her and we're going to prove New Bethlehem. And he just took it. And he was okay with letting Nick go. And, obviously he wasn't going to be happy about that, but it was a risk he was happy taking.
Do we think that Mackenzie knows the New Bethlehem plan? He has to know the New Bethlehem
plan,
I
think so.
Definitely.
It was totally his idea to attack June.
Yeah.
Lawrence was still trying to get June to come to New Bethlehem. It's like Mackenzie's not going to find out that June came to New Bethlehem. How is that? Like, I don't understand how that's going to work. So I have this weird idea, like, is Lawrence trying to sell on Mackenzie, like, the best thing is for June to be in New Bethlehem for the look of Gilead? But it doesn't seem like Mackenzie's going to be okay with it. So I'm a little confused with that whole thing going on.
I don't think Mackenzie would ever want her any closer to his daughter than she is.
No, I agree.
He just wants to eliminate the threat and the woman that he feels has really messed up his family. So I'm like you. I don't get it.
Like, I think Lawrence was fibbing on that whole thing about the Mackenzies coming to New Bethlehem. Like, that was just the way that he would get June there. But I don't know that Mackenzie had any plans of moving.
Mm-hmm.
But if June went there, then that might help Mackenzie be closer to her to kill her.
I don't think he was ever going to have the Mackenzie family there. He was like, eventually, because Hannah's going to be moved off or married off in a few years, then she would move there.
Yeah.
Like, not with the Mackenzies, but with her and her husband.
But I don't understand, like, why Mackenzie, like, I know Mackenzie wants her dead. So why is Lawrence still trying to bring June to New Bethlehem? It's not going to be a secret. Like, June's supposed to go public so that all these refugees can come to New Bethlehem. So Mackenzie's going to find out that she's going to be there. So why would he be okay with it? That's like my question. I didn't think
that might be why he would get Mackenzie to approve New Bethlehem. But that might have been always the bargaining chip.
I'll bring her closer so you can kill her, and with her she'll bring all these.
That would be the only thing that makes sense.
I like Nick's first scene in Lawrence's house in season 3 to this scene. Like, he saw June and they couldn't do anything. They were trying to, they were very obvious about loving each other because Lawrence clocked it.
I kind of like how Nick and Janine both kind of committed suicide after they heard about how hurt June was.
Yeah.
Like, it fueled them. It was like, they're both like, we're done with Gilead now. And we're just, like,
and they're
kill us already.
In jail.
Yep.
But also like Nick's protectiveness of his family. Yeah, even though he stated his family is Rose and the unborn child in the episode before, but here we clearly see that June,
his actions speak otherwise.
Yeah, and it's kind of also reminded me of like season 1, episode 8, when he punched Commander Price when Gilead was not even a thing at that time, and he was trying to just protect his father and his brother because he was desperate. The things he does
was always for family.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, when you said that about Janine and Nick, that was one note I had on the whole episode. It was they parallel each other so well. Like they're both doing things in reaction to what's happened to June, and they both just fucked themselves.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Also in reaction to what's happened to them, though, they've both been keeping these, like, both been fucked up in very different ways, but like they've always had that sort of like anger building up.
Yeah.
Well, their mask slips. They're done. They're just done. Both of them are like, fuck it, I'm done. Because Janine was playing the game. You know, Nick, they have to play the game, and they just couldn't
stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Then Lydia's so upset by Janine's betrayal, and I also noted it's very similar to what Nick has just done. They've both had enough, and Janine has no regrets. Lydia's crying after all the good you've managed to do. You just threw it away. And then the eyes come in to take her away, and Lydia's outraged now. She's yelling at them, "Don't you dare!" And she follows them screaming through the Red Center by all the women sleeping out to the eyes van. And Lydia is just like going hard for her. She's not going to let them take her. But she's just one woman, and they shove her to the ground and shove Janine into the eye van and drive her off. And Jesus, this whole episode. Inside the van, we have a scene that looks exactly like Emily and her Martha again from season 1. Hopefully with a very different ending, but it's the Martha that told Janine that June was hurt. And I wonder why they got her. Janine's holding her hands and giving her strength. And then we're back with Lydia standing now and looking absolutely furious and like she's not going to let this stand.
I think Aunt Lydia has just felt one of the biggest betrayals since she kind of made some form of a connection with Lawrence, I guess, because the eyes tell her it was Lawrence's call to transport Janine, like to get her. And I don't know how she comes back from that.
I think every one of us thought of Emily and her Martha from season 1 watching this scene. And Kate, you asked, why the Martha is there? The Martha who told Janine about
Are we
June.
sure that's the same Martha? Because
I'm not sure. I just think that if it was the same Martha, then I'm thinking that Lawrence is just really becoming Gilead, because he used to have Martha operating out from his basement. And if now one has been sniffed out as being part of Mayday and he ordered her to get arrested, then he's really gone Gilead.
Yeah.
But after his little incident with Nick, he's probably been watched by everybody. Like he can't be soft on any of these people.
Yeah.
So like things like that are rebellious and there are treason. So like sharing that information with a handmaid by the Martha is probably something that they would be sentenced to death for. And I don't think Lawrence can allow himself to be, merciful to any of these people. So unfortunately, he's got to play his part.
You're totally right. Yeah.
My only other note was that it reminded me the way I think Lydia said, I don't quite remember the right words, but she's asking Janine to apologize and plead for forgiveness. And it just reminded me of Nick with Eden when she's about to be killed as well. Like that's all they wanted, and neither of them wanted to do it. Like again, they were like really comfortable with whatever the consequences they get from their actions. Like they are peaceful with the choices they made.
Yeah, well, Janine was just like, "Don't worry about me, Aunt Lydia. I'll be fine."
Yeah. She also said, like, I'm not sorry. Does she say that?
Yeah, she says that to her when she says, like,
apologize,
when you beg for mercy.
Yeah. It was kind of sweet and fucked up when she said that Aunt Lydia thing. She was like worried about Aunt Lydia.
I was just gonna say, this show again is horrible at making me feel bad for awful human beings.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aunt Lydia. I felt so bad for her, like she was a little kid.
Like flailing, yeah.
Yeah, when she like got pushed down, I was like, no, don't push Aunt Lydia. And I was just thinking back to the scene like when Emily stabs her and pushes down the stairs. And I remember really being like, yes, do it, Emily, go. And now I'm just like, oh my God, don't push Aunt Lydia.
I love the way she was pushed down, though. I'm sorry.
It was really fun.
Yeah, it was like two toddlers, fighting on a playground or something. He just pushed her. Like,
if Janine dies, I'm gonna kick someone.
Oh no, I don't want that.
Tuello's pulling June and Luke and Holly up to the train station. And God, I love Tuello in this episode more than anything. We've already talked about how I low-key hated him since he told Moira not to yell at Serena back in season 3, but he's shot up my list of favorite characters in the span of 1 hour. He's taken his promise to Nick to his fucking soul, and it's very attractive. As they say goodbye and thank him, Luke walks off, and June takes a moment to ask Tuello to please get a message to Nick to tell him that she and Holly are safe. And we're all like, tell her, Mark, tell her now. But of course, he looks like he might, and he doesn't tell her that Nick came to the hospital to see her, and he took the deal.
Finally, June admits that she cares about Nick to somebody.
Yeah, I could still use a little more, but yes, I appreciate that. The thing is, it has been made entirely clear on Nick's side, like how much he loves her and adores her and prioritizes her, and she's the most important thing in the world. And it still needs to be shown on June's side, even though it's like clear.
To me, I feel like, again, we've discussed this before, and you guys have discussed in other episodes, but it's very like noticeable to me that they've been mentioned to each other, both sides. Like June's been hearing about Nick pretty much in every episode. Somebody's talking about Nick to her, and you can see her reaction. She's trying very hard to like keep it like neutral, but Tuello's obviously picked up on a lot of like her, expressions when people talk about Nick
when he comes up.
And I think like when like Lily talked about, is he a Jezebel's guy, like again, like her little smile, like you can tell like people pick up on that, I think. And even Luke knows not to mention Nick around her, because the one time he's done it, she almost cracks. So I think like we haven't had that conversation from her, or like that sort of like she's not said those words out loud, but I do feel like her actions when Nick has mentioned
it's super clear.
Show it
super clear. But I'm just feeling so sad for Nick right now that he's all alone and he's lost everything, and I want her to tell him how important he is.
Just a very, very quick counterpoint though, like I don't know that if you think about like the last 2 interactions that Nick had with June, does she get it still? Like I don't know if he's been that clear to her. Like we're seeing everything he's doing that she's not seeing, but at this point that could be the next episode when she finds out all of that.
I don't think, you're right. I think like he doesn't really want her to know that he really wants her to move on, like to not think about him, to take him out of the equation, to just be happy with Luke and Nicole.
He just doesn't want to cause her any stress.
No complication. He doesn't want to complicate her life.
It's not so much that he wants that for her. I don't think if June had ever said to him like, I'm not in love with Luke anymore, like I think he would be okay with it. Like I don't think that's what he wants for her, but I think from everything he's got from June is that she's still in love with him and that wants to go back to his previous life with his previous family. Like I do agree that I don't think Nick has communicated that well his feelings for her this season, and again he was really cold on their phone call and he was very cold when they actually meet up. But I also feel like he doesn't know enough to kind of like put himself out there.
Right. She hasn't told him that the marriage is not all it's cracked up to be. Inside the train station, it's packed. And it's so funny to me that last season they had a max of like 12 people per scene, but because of COVID, and this season they're like, let's do 7,000 people on an escalator in a subway. It's cool that people are back. June sees a little girl and smiles at her, as she's wont to do. She's a mama at heart. The station is wildly crowded though. Eventually, though, they get down to the train platform and they see police actively looking for Luke, showing his picture, I think. Definitely saying his name. OT's a big, handsome guy, and it would be very hard to not notice OT. So he tells her to go first and he'll follow. Good plan, Luke. She goes, and when she gets to the other side, past the woman checking papers, by the way, Holly, Nicole's 21 months old, we learn. It'd be cool if they use the same babies next season and they can be walking and talking a bit because these babies are so cute. Anyway, once she's on the other side, she calls Luke and realizes he's not coming. I don't think he ever could make it, but it's still a very emotional revelation that he's letting June go. She begs him, telling him she doesn't want to do this alone anymore. They tell each other they love each other, and then Luke calls her June Osborne, which it's got to be related to his usual pattern of speech of, my wife, my wife, my wife. But this time he uses even her last name, June Osborne, and he puts his hands in the air and whistles for the cops. And oh my God, you guys, I love this scene. I love this. I love Luke in the scene. My previous favorite Luke scene, which I love so much, was when Moira gets out. The police haven't bent over the barrier and are cuffing him as June gets on the train, and they look at each other and the train pulls away. Inside the train, she's crying. She's alone again.
I really enjoyed this scene, and I've got a cold heart and I don't cry very easily, but I almost cried at this scene because I felt so bad for June. She's going to have to get on that train alone again, on her own. She really just doesn't want to do it alone, and it was just upsetting. And Luke sacrificed himself for a good cause. And yeah, I thought it was lovely.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. I think this was his shining moment. He gave them a better chance at getting free, and he freed her of her obligation to him, which I feel like he felt was coming. I mean, like with every I love you, like we said, it kind of hit him empty. When you go back and watch the other episodes, you can see him really watching her and soaking in her I love yous, and it's just not hitting him right. And I feel like he was just like letting her go in every sense. And that's big of him to do. That's amazing. I mean, they always will love each other, but I feel like it was kind of like a goodbye, June Osborne. And I will see you soon, and we will reconnect, and we will continue to fight for our daughter, but our marriage is over. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I don't fool me once, you guys.
I know.
I think that he'll find her, and we'll do all of this until the very end.
I think, though, that Luke obviously let them go because that was the wise and safe thing to do. I don't necessarily. He obviously is never going to stop loving her. So I feel like even if they did meet up again, I think it would be very hard for someone who you love like that just to let them go that easily, especially,
I don't know if he loves, I don't know, like, I don't really agree with that, because I do feel like she's changed so much and she's not the same person.
Yep.
And I feel like he's really clinging to it because it's the only thing he's got left of his previous life. And with Hannah gone, I think it's a little bit selfish that he's holding on to her so much. And I don't know if it's real love. And I don't mean it just as a Nick and June fan. I don't know if he's actually, I don't know. It feels like both of them are trying to be somebody different around each other. And I don't think that's just the way you love somebody. I feel like he's just really scared of losing that because it means that he's lost.
Well, he's held on to that for 7 years. Yeah. This is what he wanted back. And he even said in 508, he said, I hate what they've done to you. I hate how they've changed you. So like, he's not in love.
That doesn't mean you don't love someone though.
Yeah, but we're saying in love and love are different.
It's just Kimberly thinks that he's in love with her and we don't think he's in love with her. But do you think that June's in love with him, Kimberly?
I think she loves him in the way that he is the father of her daughter.
Mm-hmm. Their daughter, always love him. Have love
and I think that she loves him as, she's always going to love him like as a friend, as a co-parent, as a whatever. But I don't think she's in love with him like she is with Nick.
Right.
I do think that he loves her, yes. But I do agree with you guys that it does seem to be changing a little bit as this season goes on, but I still do think he is in love with her.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
To me, this scene was a chance for Luke to do a do-over of Boston.
Yeah, he did great.
He did great. Yeah, but he also understood it. And I remember talking to, I can't remember who on the chat, but someone pointed out like this is Luke's go-to also to go the
legal route.
The legal route.
He's going to go through the justice system.
Yes,
I killed somebody. Let's go through
let's fuck off and risk it. But if I'm supposed to face consequences, then this is what he's going to do, not to endanger June and Nicole.
Right.
My first thought was when he let them kind of go, like, because we just watched for like 509 and he held her after she got the phone call from Lawrence and
she's saying,
told him, let me go. It was, I don't know, it was like one of my first thoughts too, that he finally could stop clinging to her. To what she represented, and also to what Nicole represented, and to do the right, like the thing that is not best for him or his feelings, but like, what is just best for the situation.
I thought of that right away too, the let me go in the last scene. That felt to me like it was a lot bigger than that moment. So
it's rarely one meaning with the show.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think it was great, and I think it was probably one of the few moments that I liked Luke in. But I didn't really like the way he did it. I think as they were leaving the house, I think he already made that decision, and he kept June in the shadows for it. And again, I understand why he's doing it, and I understand that I don't think she would have agreed to like let him go and sacrifice himself, but I feel like doing it so last minute puts June again in the same position she was when, you know, the tall Hannah, apart from her arms, and she's, you know, she's in the woods and she's just like alone again. I don't think she meant, you guys were saying that she said, I don't want to do this alone. I don't think she meant like, I don't want to be in life alone, although I agree with you. I think in that moment she felt like, I don't want to go through this again alone. I don't want to do it, because last time it ended very badly. And I feel like, again, he was trying to protect her, but by not confiding in her what he was planning on doing, he's just putting her in a very triggering position again. And I don't know if it's fair on her.
It's also, it's just also disappointing to me that they're being separated by circumstance. Like, you know, we've always wanted her to make her decision and say, I love Nick. I'm sorry, Luke, I love you too, but I'm in love with Nick. And instead, this separation comes about by circumstance. So she hasn't made a decision or
I don't think this is the right moment.
No.
And then Nick's in jail. There's cool shadows that look like bars on the wall. Also, Rose comes to visit him, and he's right off the bat, he says, I'm sorry, but she seems done. She asks him why he ever pretended that he loved her. And he says, I do, but she can tell, and she tells him that he's lying. He leaves his pregnant wife every time his girlfriend calls, and he looks completely ashamed. He walks over to sit at the table with her. By the way, it's nice to see him out of a suit. I'd love to never see him in a suit again, although I'm quite sure I'm not that lucky. She gets to the truth of the matter, says, you will never let go of her, will you? And he's finally fully honest with her. I tried. I really tried, but I can't. And it's so raw and honest and sad, and it's amazing. And that's it for her. She tells him she doesn't want to be with him anymore and gets up to leave. And he tells her she can't leave, presumably for her own safety in Gilead. But she tells him they had a good thing and he had to go and ruin it. And he wipes his tears away and lays his head on the table. And oh my God, it's so heartbreaking. It's like teenager Nick who couldn't keep his family safe. And he's just so sad. He's always lost everyone he's loved, even though he's tried to be a good man every step of the way. And it breaks my heart that, ever since the bad decision of working for Sons of Jacob. But it breaks my heart that his arc from pre-Gilead, where we see him losing his shit and punching the guy we talked about earlier, and then we watched stoic, controlled Nick for 7 years, has ended up here in this Gilead jail after losing his shit just once. And it's also interesting that everybody ended the season in jail. We already talked about Janine and Nick in the same jail, which I like, but also Luke's in jail because someone tried to kill June. Everyone's in jail because someone tried to kill June. And June was everyone's breaking point.
I felt like really interesting in this scene was the kind of opposite direction he went with Nick and Rose and Nick and Eden's relationship, because he kind of did with Rose what he always regretted doing or not doing with Eden. Like, he was way nicer to Rose. He tried to give her the family she always desired just because it was the Gilead way. So when he said he really tried to fit in and he really tried to like and love her, it was completely, I think he was not a liar in this moment, not in the way that she accused him to be, because he always wanted to do better than the situation with Eden. Even though he tried to do that, it kind of bit him in the ass again, and he's again guilted by her into doing everything wrong, and it crushes me again. Like whatever he does, it's just not right. And I also thought it was kind of interesting that it also parallels that Luke and Nick both let June go in a sense, and also their kids go. Like this, I mean, if it doesn't matter if Nicole is Luke's biological daughter or not in this moment, but he decided to do the right thing here as much as Nick did previous seasons as well, especially in the finales. So I really, really like that they went there to put these men, and they're both good guys, even though they have both their flaws. And I really did love where they went here.
I really like when Rose says about you're never going to let her go. It felt like it was a callback from episode 1 when she's talking to Nick about Fred, what's happened to June with Fred, and she said something about along the lines of like maybe she can let go now or move on now. I felt like she wasn't just talking about June; she was clearly talking about Nick and Nick's feelings for June. Like that was something that they both needed to do together. Again, I don't know how much Nick has told Rose about the relationship, but in this scene it felt like it was like she's always had that sort of like feeling that after what happened with Fred, she was okay with that because it was kind of like the last thing he was going to do for June, and that would maybe end that for him. But yeah, in this scene you can tell that she's probably been thinking about it as well. Like she's not trusted him fully, and that shows to her that he's always had this commitment to June and June only, which again kind of like we can also see in the scene in episode 6 after he's killed Putnam, and she's like, are you sure that's who you're really doing it for? Are you really doing it for me and our baby, or do you have any other alliances somewhere else?
I like Rose's character. I've said that all along. I love Carrie. She's amazing in this role. Carrie Lee Cox, who plays Rose. But at the end of the day, like she's not a good person because she's on board with Gilead, like he's telling June, I can't leave because Rose loves it here. And that's fucked up because she knows what goes on here. Also because she's disabled and they killed most of the disabled people. So like she's okay that she's alive because her dad has power.
Yeah.
But if somebody really loves Gilead so much that they're angry at Nick for shooting a child rapist and refuse to leave, what's he supposed to do with that? He can't live that life anymore. He's finally realized. So I feel bad for her in how she's been made to feel here, but also at the end of the day, she's a Gilead loving wife. So I think he's obviously he did this really stupidly, but if he has to decide between Gilead and like continuing to go through the Gilead motions and supporting Gilead or having to leave his wife or be honest with her, I think that he made the right decision.
Found it a bit surprising that she sounded so confident that she can leave. Like Nick says, you can't leave. And I added to it because it's Gilead, you can't leave. And she was like, Gilead, I didn't know her, like suddenly can't read, like she grew up, like it's obvious in this moment that she grew up sheltered, that she has the full protection of his father. She is allowed to probably not divorce, but end this relationship this way or another. So she will not be forced to stay married like 95 or maybe 90% of the people in Gilead who are forced to stay with their chosen or not chosen spouse. So she has the confidence to say, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm leaving. I mean, I feel she was more than fair with him when she was talking to him, but you could see that, she's not like this little girl that she was in 509, with the big girls, and she was there like alone with the baby and needing Nick, needing to feel better when he's around. Yeah, she was confident that she's go.
Privileged and she knows daddy will come to the rescue. Right. She has her dad's protection, which is, that's how life goes, right?
Yeah. I feel like we've been made to believe that Rose was in a better position because after marrying Nick, but it's the other way around. Nick kind of married into somebody very important. Whether he did it consciously because he wanted to get closer to Hannah is a different thing. But in Gilead's eyes, he's marry somebody that's got really good connections to the highest spheres of the regime. So she's probably going to be okay regardless of what happens to Nick, or whatever happens with his involvement with June. If that ever gets out, like, she's going to be fine. No one's going to come after her or her baby. But it also shows like this new generation of women, because you've had the ones that are wives, which I think because they're wives, they have less power because they're just married to the men, whereas you're going to have these girls that are commanders, high-ranking commanders' daughters, so they're more important than just being a wife that you've married. So I don't know if that was kind of like something that they wanted to introduce, that is this kind of like new generation of women that are going to be more important than the old wives.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because even we had Serena, who was really important, that couldn't just leave, and we had that conversation with her mom saying like, you can't divorce, you can't just leave him.
We're nothing without Fred.
Yeah. Whereas I think Rose is completely fine without Nick.
So one of the things that caught my attention when I was watching this scene is when Nick puts his head down on the table towards the end, the shot is from above and you can see the reflection of like a cross on his back, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. So it's the shadow from like the bars above the jail. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
That's cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because we clearly know that Nick has a pretty big target on his back right about now.
Yeah.
But also, I've said before, crosses usually symbolize sacrifice. And that's pretty much what Nick did in this episode. He sacrifices for June, obviously, because he loves her. And, he takes a deal and he does this sacrifice. We finally get to see it for her. So I thought it's pretty interesting. And I was also thinking to the scene in the bridge with Tuello, which is obviously very similar to 410. But interesting to me was that in 410, that exchange that happens with Fred happens right in the middle of the bridge and Nick doesn't cross over. But in this episode, he does meet Tuello in the middle, but then we get to see him finally cross over into Canada. I mean, I know he went to Canada in season 2, but I think the crossing in the bridge is very significant because we've been waiting for that for the longest time. And we see him cross over. And then when the scene comes back, we see him still in the bridge. He finally takes a deal. He does his sacrifice. And then we see him do the long walk back to Gilead. So we see him do that crossover in between those two worlds where we had just seen him stuck in Gilead. Now he's finally crossed over. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And the final scene of the season, June's in the train, walking through it, looking very alone. Oh, and apparently they're actually going to Hawaii on this train, at least ultimately. Anyway, they hear a baby crying, and June asks Nicole, if she wants to go see the baby, and guess whose baby it is? So that's where Serena ended up after fleeing the fertility center. June approaches her, and Serena is very happy to see her, and June does her usual not happy to see her, hi Serena thing, and the episode ends with Serena asking if she had got a diaper. And the song at the end of the scene is amazing. What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering? What do you want? Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? It's just like perfect. Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what's it called?
Bury a Friend.
Bury a Friend. Billie Eilish, Bury a Friend.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best song choices they've made on the whole.
Yeah. I was gonna say
it was
I think it's my number one now. But I was really hoping it was her mom Holly she was gonna see on the train. How cool would that be with Holly with baby and they could go be
that would have been lovely.
That would have been the best thing ever.
But we've got baby Noah and Serena.
I don't know about this, just for the fact that, just for all the rapes, the 9-month rapes and stuff. Like you can't live happily ever after with your rapists. It's just not not a good message for
it's
the
a terrible
survivors of the world.
And still the audacity of Serena, like she sees June and the first thing she does is just ask for something. Like,
right, because she always needs something. Yeah, I'm using you for something.
Putting the message aside, it was so funny
great
to
twist.
see her. Yeah, exactly.
I loved it. I did love it. I was conflicted.
If they'd wanted to end the show with Serena and June as a team, they just needed to not write some of the the 9-month rape and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, for sure. I have no idea where they're going from here.
What I see is June having to put a lot of work if this is supposed to work out, and it's going to be June's work again, not Serena's, to, for them not to kill each other.
Right. The further problem is Serena has legitimately said all season, I don't regret anything. I overthrew a country. I'm super proud of myself. I'm glad I got my son. Like, no.
She was trying to get back into Gilead
whatsoever. Yes.
Yeah, she loves Gilead. People are like, she's going to go destroy Gilead. It's like, really?
No, she's not.
Showed us that. She's wanted to marry Lawrence. But now apparently she's the Gilead crusader. She's
going to go to Hawaii and, use her opportunities. She's going to bring Gilead to Hawaii.
Yes, exactly. That's the only thing she would do.
It's such a testament to Yvonne, though. Like, you look at the polls on social media and everybody's like, yes, she's redeemable. She should work with June. And you're like, wow, she's like the best defense lawyer in the land. She's just too good at playing.
Well, even Yvonne says she doesn't think Serena is redeemable. So
right. She's not sorry. She's not redeemable. She's not a victim. She's a villain. She said all those things. Like Yvonne has said all those things. And still, that is not how the fans feel.
I really loved Serena's storyline this season. Like, I hate Serena a lot, like with a passion, but as a character, she's written so well. Like, I think this season was just, it was, one of my favorite parts of the season was Serena's storyline.
Yeah, it was great turning her into Handmaid. That's not a Handmaid. It was all great. She didn't really suffer that much, but it's really smart writing, and I'm impressed.
So I was talking to Leah, who is a friend on Instagram. Her handle is Life Meets Literature. If you like books, you should totally go check her out.
Check out her reviews.
Yes, I was talking with her about the finale, and she mentioned that Serena literally got her coconuts and treason.
Yes, it's so funny.
She's literally going to be going off to Hawaii, sipping her coconut cocktails
whilst committing treason on either Gilead or I guess Gilead. I don't know. Either way, that's amazing. I love that. Yay.
I just think back to those simple times when Tuello was first introduced.
The good old days.
When we never realized that he would be a big part of the show now.
Those were the days. But I'm glad he's a big part of the show now. He has grown on me, which I mentioned 1,000 times. I also think it's really cool that this finale ended exactly how the season started, but they swapped roles, June and Luke, because in the first episode of this season, she's trying to turn herself in to the cops because she killed someone and Luke doesn't want her to. And then in the final episode, Luke's trying to turn himself into the cops and she doesn't want him to for killing someone. So anyway, it's cool how, this show and its parallels.
I have a feeling that he's not going to be getting out with $88 this time.
He better get off because he didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. He literally saved her life, so it was literal self-defense.
Yeah.
But we will see. I rarely predict the correct path of this show.
Yeah, we can't predict that at all. We've tried, failed.
Miserably.
Yes.
It's still fun to do in the off-season, though. A very long off season. I'm very sad about. Amazing finale. Amazing. I love this episode. I was so happy after watching it.
Fantastic.
Every time. All right. I think that is a wrap on our analysis of season 5, episode 10 of The Handmaid's Tale. Oh my God, we went over by literal many hours. But I hope that's okay for the season finale. And if any of you have made it this far, come back on Friday to listen to our interview with costume designer Leslie Kavanaugh. And we have other interviews coming out soon, as well as some special episodes wrapping season 5. So it's not over yet. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.
Bye. Bye.
Just another point for the sound department. You can hear the sound of the flies with the light.
What does that mean? Why did they do that?
I don't know. You could actually see a fly there. I don't know if it was really there, and then they just saw that it was really there and added the sound.
Oh,
were you high when you watched? Okay.
No. 7 years of keeping his head down and playing the game to stay alive and play the long game.
Hey!
Yeah,
you're talking too fast. Start that bit again.
7 years. I do talk to you. All right.